I increased my salary up an extra 1,500 without any side hustles. And this is how. These are the 5 books that helped me achieve this, which I regret not picking up sooner. If you're ready to unlock your own earning potential in 2024, let's dive right into it. The first book is the #1 reason why I could increase my earning potential. This book will help you in all aspects of life, whether it's in your job or at home talking with your family and friends. It's a book about communication. It gave me many tricks to understand the person I was dealing with and helped me on how to talk to them. You express aspects with different words and structures, but the way you use words and the structure might change the reaction of your communication partner. Look, since I finished my apprenticeship as a mechanic and started my first year for Mercedes Australia, I told my friends that I wanted to work as a service advisor, and they said this role would suit me perfectly. I had an excellent technical background from Germany and was a gifted talker. And still, it took me 4 years to make the shift from the workshop to the front, simply because I lacked the skill of selling myself at a good value to my future boss. The greatest actionable lesson I can give you from the book is how important listening to others is. Try to find if you have common passions. This will earn their trust immediately. Trust me, I had a really tough and shy customer, but after I figured out that he likes to fly in his free time, and I told him that it's my future goal of mine, the rest of the talk was like a walk in the park. Also, for long-term relationships, make certain notes to remember specific events. If you show that you remember them, they will value you very much, because everyone wants to feel heard and special, right? The book I'm talking about is from Dale Carnegie, How to Win Friends and Influence People. It is a classic. I'd rank classics higher in general because they stood the test of time, and many modern books will copy many lessons just in different words and just will be a washed up version of the original. This is just a short review of the things I learned, but there are many more lessons, and I highly recommend you pick up a copy too. If communication is something you're looking into tackle more into, here's some alternatives. Influence by Cialdini or Way of the Wolf by the Wolf of Wall Street, Jordan Belfort. For any aspiring entrepreneurs, this is definitely a must read, and the fact that this $100 million man gives his secrets all for free is just astonishing. And I'm not just talking about his book. More about him later. He has insights on how he scaled his almost bankrupt company to a $100 million empire. And a lot of it comes down to the offer. You can have so many great attributes of a business, like a good sales team, great marketing, but if your product or offer isn't valuable, you'll have a hard time. Focus on the offer if you want to attract customers. The #1 lesson I will never forget is the value equation. Dream outcome times perceived likelihood of achievement divided by time delay times effort and sacrifice. Dream outcome is the goal you want to give your customer. Let's say you're selling a course which will guarantee $1 million. Next is the perceived likelihood of achievement. How much likely is the customer get it? Do you have any testimonials, or is there any proven formula? Time delay is how quickly can get the customer the results. Is it in 6 months or is it in a year? Effort and sacrifice defines how much effort does the customer need to put in. The big successful companies learned to focus on the lower part of the equation. Time delay and effort and sacrifice. Look at Netflix example, or Amazon. You can buy or watch movies all from the comfort from home. You don't need to go out, go to Blockbuster or go to the grocery store or to the mall. You can get the promised result just with one click. This helps me not just create a framework for my future products, but it also helps me value products I'm considering buying. There are many more insights into how most e-commerce are playing the marketing game, about scarcity, urgency, and money-back guarantee. Additionally, he teaches how you have to be focused on the customer by offering the customer a life-changing potential. Focus on the transformation. Focus on Maui instead of the plane which brings the customer there. And you can emphasize all these things with the previous book about communication. Use persuasion and storytelling to make your offer irresistible. If you guessed that I'm talking about Alex Hormozi and the $100 million offer, how to make offers so good people feel stupid say no, then you're right. What would be any list of becoming successful without any content of Alex Hormozi? This is just the first out of his series. He published his second book, $100 Million Leads, a few months ago. Therefore, if this is the first time you hear his name, check out his YouTube or podcast and you will binge watching his content like I did when I discovered him. And he gives it all away for free. Also learn from him this great technique. Get a book and get the audiobook and read and listen at the same time. This has several benefits. First of all, you're more focused on what you're reading you can set the reading speed at a level you want, and therefore you can increase your reading speed. But last but not least, you remember more, because if you combine reading and listening, you will remember more than 30%. Other alternatives are the books of Russell Brunson. He learned a lot from him and attended his mastermind a couple years ago before becoming successful and eventually famous. Let's talk about money next. Have you ever wondered what rich people teach their kids regarding finances? Well, the next book is exactly about it. Because the author was lucky to have two dads and to see the different approaches regarding money. He had a poor dad who was well educated, and a rich dad, his best friend's dad by the way, who had a rich life and didn't even graduate from high school and still managed to own several companies. So how come his well-educated dad was struggling for money while his best friend's dad, who didn't finish school, didn't struggle? This helped him to see the difference between certain money biases. How the middle class and the upper class think different about money. The middle class is looking for more secure ways and thinks money is limited. The upper class thinks that money is unlimited and they do not shy away from calculated risks. His poor dad advised him to go to school, to study hard, to get a very secure job one day. His rich dad told him to make as many mistakes, something schools hate, to jump jobs and get as much experience as possible. He even advised him to be bankrupt in his young years. I don't know if I would agree with that though. Anyway, he's also teaching about assets. Ask your parents what their biggest asset is. I am sure, like his educated dad, that they will say it's the house. But this is a big misconception. An asset is something that brings money in your pocket, while a liability is something that takes money out of your pocket. So, how does your own house, unless you rent it out, put anything in your pocket? To sum it up, the big two takeaways from this one are to make as many experiences in your life which will result in great skills, and secondly, about assets. Buy assets to finance your liabilities. The book I'm talking about is the classic Rich Dad Poor Dad. What the rich teach their kids about money that the poor and middle class do not. If you want to get started in finance, I highly recommend reading this one. It is easy to read and you will be inspired to make your next moves. Alternatives are from Tony Robbins, Money, Master the Money Game. Next on our list is recommended by Patrick Bet-David. He mentioned in the podcast that this book should be mandatory for every young man. It falls more into the category of self-improvement and philosophy. The lessons from this book are timeless. Why? Because the man who wrote this book lived about 2000 years ago, and what just amazes me is that this man, who was the richest and most powerful man of his time, had the same struggles as me. To quote him, "At dawn, when you have trouble getting out of bed, tell yourself, I have to go to work. As a human being, what do I have to complain of if I'm going to do what I was born for? The thing I was brought into the world to do? Or is this what I was created for? To huddle under the blankets and stay warm? But it's nice here. So you were born to feel nice? Instead of doing things and experiencing them, don't you see the plants, the birds, the ants and the bees going all about their individual tasks, putting the world in order as best they can? And you're not willing to do your own job as a human being? Why aren't you running to do what your nature demands?" But he's also very humble. It is astonishing to me that the man who had everything was still down to earth. His main goals were to find inner tranquility and growth and live a fulfilled life in the here and now. Those are aspects which I value in my life very highly too. The most impactful lesson to me is how he deals with death. It is something I haven't been 100% comfortable yet. Honestly, my number one fear is not to live this life anymore. We just have one, and it is calming to know that he had the same struggles. Describes death as something beautiful from far distance, and there is no way around it besides accepting it. The man I'm talking about is the last great emperor, Marcus Aurelius, and his journal, Meditations. The book is diving into the category of Stoicism. If you want to know more about Stoicism, read about other great Stoics like Epictetus or Seneca, or if you're looking for something more modern, check out Ryan Holiday from Daily Stoic. Last but not least is a combination of the previous two categories. It's supposed to be a guide on wealth and happiness. The man is being cited by many other great minds. Tim Ferriss even wrote the foreword of his book, and the likes of Alex Hormozi quoted his leverage analogy. Archimedes said, "Give me a lever long enough and I will move the world." This means the more leverage you have in this world, the easier it will get for you, or the more of an outcome you have for the same input. They're the 4 C's of leverage. On the bottom, we have collaboration or labor. You will get out as much as you put in your physical labor. Or see it like your boss. Your boss has many workers, so he can leverage more collaboration. The next is something Warren Buffett has a lot: capital. With his capital invested, he can have a more output of what he's putting in. As example, if I put $1,000 in the stock market and Warren Buffett puts $1 million in it, his output is going to be much higher than mine. The next 2 on the top is going to be code and content. Code for softwares. Think about like you need to build one time a software and 1 million or billion people can use the software, like Facebook. Another thing is content. Think of this video as content. I have to put in once the work of a video, but maybe one day 1 million people are gonna watch this video. This showed me that I have to leave the corporate world and start working for myself, my own goals. I am producing content to reach as many guys as possible to have a bigger impact on the world. I have capital invested in the stock market, and I'm trying to build a small team which is driven by the same goals as me. But the most inspiration of his story is that he's the living proof that everyone can become rich. He immigrated from India to the US at 9 years old, and he barely saw his mom because she was working 2 jobs. He started with 0, and today his worth is at over $60 million. He also taught me to learn fundamentals. As I mentioned before, learn from the classic, because many books are just washed up versions of the ones that stood the test of time. The man I'm talking about is Naval and the Almanac of Naval Ravikant. He also has a podcast in which he talks about the same guide on how to become rich and happy without being lucky. He also has a recommendation list of books. I will link everything down below. Remember, leaders are readers. Warren Buffett, the 5th richest man, says his wealth comes from reading 6 hours daily. Books are great tools for self-development and are worth every penny. But books alone won't make you rich. Watch this video next where I share the secret sauce of getting rich.